Hey folks, I'm just leaving CrossFit here and we're going to ExperiencedDevs subreddit for a topic. This one is someone struggling with some feedback around don't fix what's not broken. And they don't seem to offer really specific details in their post, but they do say that they've been trying to pitch ideas to management, they've been trying to pitch ideas to senior engineers on the team, and the feedback is pretty consistent. So like not just from like management or business people, but, and again, I don't know these exact roles, by the way, but not just that, it's also like other engineers. So they're like, they kind of acknowledge, like, look, I get it, like there's risk associated with things, but they're kind of saying like, it feels like my career is like stagnating if I have to sit here and I can't do anything. And I thought this would be interesting to talk to, because I think that this is a, I don't know, like a common misconception in software development. And we don't have a lot of detail in the post, so it's not fair for me to like sit here and like try to, you know, criticize or pick apart what this person's saying, because I just don't know the reality of their situation. But I think we can kind of step back from it and look at it more generically. And the meta point that I want to talk through in this conversation is really like is thinking about like selling. And when I say selling, I mean how you're going to communicate value to different target audiences. And I use the word selling in this case because sure, you're not like exchanging something for money, but what you are doing is getting someone to buy into your idea. Okay, and the whole principle behind this is like there's different people that have different goals in mind. Now, at a company, like you're all like, if the company has, you know, good culture, clear vision, and, you know, core values, this kind of stuff, like hopefully everyone at the company is aligned in general, right? Like there's some customer base that you're serving, your company's on a mission to address some pain point for some target audience. People rally behind this in the company, but the different groups within the organization have different priorities within that to address that, right? I'm speaking in huge generalizations here, but please bear with me. So, you know, the typical one that I always go back to is, you know, engineers, so like people who love to program. What do we want to do? We want to address the tech debt, right? We want the code to be beautiful. We want to spend time doing that. And stereotypically, our product managers don't want us to ever spend time on tech debt. We got to go shipping features. And by the way, all those bugs, somehow get those fixed too. We don't care. Like, ship it by tomorrow. Let's go. Right? I'm obviously exaggerating here, but this, you know, stereotypical dichotomy we have between people who program and people who prioritize value to users. And truly, like we have the same goal. That's why I'm trying to give you this kind of like silly sounding example. We have the same goal. We want to deliver value to customers, but the steps that we're trying to take in order to get there look different, right? Where, you know, stereotypically engineers want to focus more on like, how do we get this cleaned up? How do we make it so that we can build effectively here so that we can deliver value? And stereotypically, you know, product managers don't give a shit. They just want, you know, or like if you factor in like salespeople have already promised to customers the stuff that doesn't exist. Again, speaking in sweeping generalizations here to exaggerate it, but I think you get what I'm saying. So in this case that this person's writing about, I suspect that they're probably struggling with like identifying value and communicating value, one of the two at least. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, they're talking about they want to innovate, they're pitching these ideas, and they're getting the feedback like don't try to fix what's not broken. I can't even speak properly. So to me, that suggests that whatever they're trying to pitch, because I don't really know what they're trying to pitch, but whatever it happens to be, it's being perceived as like you're coming up with a fix for something that isn't actually a problem. And, you know, the way to summarize that is like, I don't see value in what you're proposing. So you are, in this case, like, unfortunately failing to communicate some value to a stakeholder. And what's really interesting in this example is, like, you have two different target audiences, right? You have someone who is also a software engineer, like, and it sounds like multiple, who are like, no, like, you're basically proposing something that just sounds like work to do, but not actually solving a problem. And you have people in management who are responsible for prioritizing other work, who are also saying, like, that's not adding value. Now, here's the tricky part. What's being proposed might be adding a ton of value. Maybe. But perhaps what's being communicated is really failing to convey that message to two different groups of people, which I find, like, kind of surprising, because usually, in my experience, you'll get one of these two groups to go, oh yeah, right, we're gonna go redesign this part, and that's gonna clean up the code base. Just making up a stupid example. All the managers and the product managers are like, we don't care. Like, what value is that to us? And all the programmers go, hell yeah, like, that's a pain point for us. Let's get it fixed up, right? So you get, like, one of these sides bought in. I'm making really dumb examples here just to kind of illustrate a point. But, you know, the idea being that these are two generally, like, groups of people that prioritize different things, and seemingly this person's not getting their proposals to land with either. So I feel like it's either that what they're proposing genuinely not solving a problem, or it is, and they're doing, unfortunately, a poor job in communicating that. I think that there's potentially confusion. Like, again, we don't know what this person's proposing, but I suspect that there's some type of confusion with, like, you know, modernize something or change some tech stack, or, you know, different architecture, and, like, that might sound interesting or sound innovative or sound like change, but, like, what problem genuinely is actually being solved by doing that? And I'm not asking that in, like, a facetious way, suggesting there isn't, but, like, what is it? You know, you'll hear people talk about rewrites of things. Like, what problem are you actually solving by rewriting something? A rewrite's, like, the most extreme example, right? You're literally saying, we're going to take this thing that's already working and forget about it and start from scratch, because clearly this thing's so far off the rails, or this other approach promises so much value that it's literally worth it for us to scrap this one and go with a new one, not invest any further into this. That's why it's extreme to do rewrites. But a lot of the time, you know, people won't see that, and they're like, well, it looks shinier, and clearly we can, you know, if we rewrite it from scratch, we can avoid all of the problems. Like, yeah, good luck. This is what famous last words from everyone who's tried to rewrite something from scratch. You just get different problems. So when you're trying to make proposals like this, like, what are you actually trying to solve? And you might know, but, like, you should have a goal in mind when you're doing this. So to give you an example, like where I work on the team I'm on, before I joined the team, they did a rewrite of one of their services. And, like, why would you go rewrite it? You already have a working version of it. Well, doing incremental improvements and trying to squeeze performance out of something, they were reaching limitations. They had coupling that they wanted to make sure that they could move away from. There's a list of things architecturally where they're limited, and there were business reasons for doing so. Literally business reasons where they could say, if we can move to this, we can actually get a large amount of additional throughput. But what does that mean? Like, who cares? Like, why do you care if we can get more throughput, right? That's just a number. What does the number mean? Well, that number translates into saving money on purchasing literal capacity of machines across the planet. And it's not like, oh, you save, you don't have to buy 4 more computers. Like, we're talking about like lots and lots and lots of money being saved for the business. So like, is it the only way that they ever could have achieved that solution to go save money? I would argue probably not, right? Is it the only way? No. But they came up with the proposal for a rewrite. And by the way, this is before I joined the team, right? So like, even I can see this in their messaging because it's so strong, like the reasons for doing it. There are so many beneficial reasons for doing it that it does make sense that they went and did a rewrite. And they had a strategy for having like a dual mode so that it's not like, you know, we never touch the other thing and then like we swap it off like one day. So like we have to go away for a couple of years and hope that this thing works. Like, no, there was an incremental sort of rollout strategy, a transition plan, like all these things that make it a very like solid argument for going in this direction. You can convince a bunch of different stakeholders that might go, some of them would be like, not only do I not really see a lot of value in that, but I see a ton of risk. Okay, for that stakeholder or that group of stakeholders, how do you demonstrate to them that you can minimize the risk? How do you get them to neutral on that? Right? You might have people that are like, this does sound awesome, but I see a lot of risk. Again, how do you get them brought up from neutral to more positive? The people that are, you know, really gung-ho about it and don't see a lot of risk, how can you like make the value prop even more clear? Or you probably don't have to spend as much time with that target audience because they're already getting it. But like, point is that you have different stakeholders that will care about different things. And in some cases, what they care about is just like, you are adding risk. So this is just, you know, one super high level example where like from where I'm working, the message is very, very clear. Now, when someone comes to us, or I hear conversations about people saying like, let's just go rewrite it in a different language, first thing that goes off for me is like alarm bells. Because I'm like, like when I hear rewrite, that's why. Rewrite is an extreme investment. A rewrite in a different language is even more extreme if you don't have the expertise in the language in-house. I know this from experience seeing it. It's not that it's impossible, it's very much possible, but you must accept that you will have a velocity in terms of development that's going to be significantly slower. And if you're willing to, like, again, if you can accept that and the trade-off is still there, then like, okay, then you make a business decision regarding this. Is it worth, you know, having significantly slower development because we don't have the expertise, because what we're anticipating is this kind of trade-off? Now, if you were to start a conversation like that, like for me at least, I have a lot of hesitation around that, right? So unfortunately, I end up being the person who's like, I don't know, like that's not very convincing for me. You want to rewrite it in X, you want to rewrite it in Y? Like, how many people on the team know X or Y? 1, 2? Okay, so you're telling me that a team of like X number of people, we have one person to start with that can be productive. Okay, so already I'm not feeling great about that. It's not impossible to solve, but I'm not feeling great. So I'm kind of more on the negative side. And for me, like my goal is not just to shut people down because I'm like, I don't like some other language, it's not C#. My goal is to be like pragmatic about what we can deliver. So what's next? Like, what's the benefit? Okay, well, you know, we're hoping to see, like, I'm just making this up, we're hoping to see like a 2x performance improvement. I'm like, okay, that's pretty substantial. But then I want to go ask the question, like, could we not get the 2x performance improvement just by using the technology we have and focusing on performance? Right? And again, the goal is not to be like, your idea is terrible. My goal is to say, like, if that's, if this is the objective we're after, does it not make more sense to just start on that objective right now without starting from scratch? But I like to go through this conversation to hear about where are these opportunities in your proposal that are something that we can't get a different way. And in some cases, like if you pick a language rewrite, just to give you an example, like if we're in C# and .NET, there's garbage collection. Cool. Is there a reason, like a strong reason why in whatever we're building, where like garbage collection is actually a really big problem? There is? Okay. Like, that's, one more reason where maybe that is a really good benefit for doing that. Is garbage collection currently an issue for us? No? Okay. Like, do we have to worry about that yet? Are we speculating that that's going to be a problem? Or like, hey, garbage collection has shown routinely to be a problem in this type of service. Okay, like maybe that is a good reason to start considering this. But I like to, like, it's pros and cons analysis, right? And at the end of the day, if you're going through that and looking at the pros and looking at the cons, and you're like, the pros outweigh the cons, even if there's some cons like people not having language experience, or it's going to take significant time, or whatever, then it's like, okay, you still might want to do it if the pros outweigh the cons. Now, how do we start minimizing the risk? Right? So just to give you an example, rewriting this language is we're anticipating 2x performance improvement. Okay, what happens if it's not? What happens if it's the exact same performance? Then like you're missing out on a huge benefit, right? So how do we de-risk that? Can we do a prototype of some small part of this that can show, like, at a smaller scale, without waiting like for a year of development, can we get an example of illustrating this performance improvement? Give us more confidence. Can we come up with a flighting strategy or a way to roll this out where it's not like flip the switch and hope that everything just works after 2 years of, zero development on the original thing and 100% effort on the new thing? Like, that sounds like a shitty, risky trade-off to me. How do we do both in parallel? Right? Like, what does that look like? So my point here being, like, when you're getting aligned on pros and cons, you're talking about the different things that stakeholders care about. How do we also go through the list of risks? Like, it's, you have all these benefits that you're trying to list out, great, and those might be the reason to do it, but when you're looking at all the cons and the risks, how do we start minimizing those as much as possible? And that might mean more work, right? To go prototype something to get some evidence, that's more work. But like, is that worth it? Like, depending on what it is, like, perhaps. For something like a rewrite, I would say I want to see a prototype to get some evidence. There might be like changes where, and just making this up off the top of my head, right? Like with the rewrite example, you're using a language and there's some type of, I don't know, like hardware changes where it's like literally our stack cannot work on that hardware. Like we're changing hardware and like we just don't have a choice. We have to go to some other technology stack. That's it. Okay, like come up with a proposal for a different language, but it's not like, sort of the argument goes out the window where it's like, well, what if we just take what we already have? It's like, you can't. So again, these things can change in your proposals, but overall, I really think that when people are struggling with this, they're unfortunately like kind of failing to realize that what they care about or what they think is valuable may not be aligned with what the business does, and or they might be doing a poor job at communicating that. You know, I have an example on the previous team I was on. I'll share this because I feel like apparently the camera battery only lasts for like 15 minutes. Stupid camera. I was just going to say I have an example from the previous team I was on where one of the projects that I had before we had a bit of a reorg was my team had this challenge where in terms of optimizations, like other teams would be responsible for owning those optimizations. Kind of tricky to explain, but we had a framework, other people plugged into it. We would be the ones who can see the performance or the success rates of things. And if one team decided to go add something in there that would screw it all up, like it would look bad on us. So we are responsible for the overall health of it, but that means that we have to go properly attribute to the teams that can impact it. So I had created a system for this that we started to implement, and when we had this sort of organizational change and we were doing planning, I had said, hey, we have this thing, we should continue it. And basically I got laughed at. Like legitimately, I got laughed at in the meeting. I'm not even, when I say laughed at, I mean not someone shrugged it off. I was on a call and someone laughed at me for it. And, obviously that's shitty. I would never recommend that you do that to anyone. But the lesson I learned from that was like, as part of that reorg, the people that were new to the group, they didn't understand the value proposition of that, and I had failed at communicating that properly. Right? I don't think that deserves being laughed at, but they didn't see the value, and like I need to take some responsibility, not for receiving a laugh, but I have to take some responsibility and being like, if they didn't get that, who was the one communicating it? Like, that was me. I failed to do that. So the value prop is really around how much time the team spends for one of their core responsibilities. And so if we agree that this is a core responsibility of the team is to maintain this, because without it we lose the agility, and that's actually the entire charter of the team. If we lose our agility, we have a problem, but in order to maintain it, it's taking up the majority of the team's time. They can't do other things. This system frees up the time so that the team does not have to spend it manually. Right, so the proposal is like, we are spending so much development time, and if we build this system, we have more development time to go do the other enhancements or other feature work or anything else. Without it, we have no capacity left. We're basically at full capacity just trying to support this. And history has proven that it's very easy to regress, especially over time. It can creep up. So the longer something waits, the harder it is to go chase down. If we can catch it right away, then great. So anyway, that's what this idea was about. After I left the team, I don't know how much longer it took, but they reprioritized the work, and I'm assuming it's because the team was operating and they ended up getting to the point where they're like, wow, there's a lot of time being spent on this. It's like, yeah, it's not good. So anyway, just a lesson in like, I went through an experience like that where I did not communicate things effectively. That's on me. Don't laugh at people, though. That's not nice. I will see you folks in the next video.